TSR Radio. It's the perfect place for the family.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It, where faith meets real and honest conversations. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber and listener, thank you for continuing this journey with me. We are at episode 9. Can you believe it? Yes, we started in January and now we are in March and we are at episode 9. What an accomplishment. I thank you guys for supporting me on this journey as we continue to grow together. Also, before we start our episode, I want to let you know that we have rebranded and our name will now be TSR Media Network. Same sound, same voice, but stronger positioning and aligning for us to really produce the content that our listeners and our subscribers would like and would like to hear from us and would want to hear from us. So that is something that I just want to share with you all. Same sound, but TSR Media. So let's get into it. So today's episode is titled Guarding Your Heart. Because the truth is, in a world where opinions are loud, expectations are heavy, and people sometimes move with hidden motives, protecting your heart is no longer optional, it's necessary. Not because you want to become cold, not because you want to shut people out, but because your heart is the center of your life. So let's start with our scripture foundation. The Bible mentions to us in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verses 23, and it reads, Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So let me repeat that again. It says, Above all else, guard your heart, because everything you do flows from it. So let's think about it. Your decisions flow from your heart. Your reactions flow from your heart. Your relationships flow from your heart. So if your heart is wounded, bitter, or overwhelmed, your life begins to reflect pain. So we have to guard our heart constantly because everything we do in this life flows from it. So, what does guarding your heart really mean? So, let's get into this. Guarding your heart does not mean becoming distant or suspicious of everyone. That doesn't mean you have to be suspicious of everyone's motives or everyone's, opinions. But it means being mindful of what influences you, being mindful of the things that you watch on social media, the things that influence you, whether that be friends, whether that be maybe certain content that you may watch. Be careful of and be mindful of what influences you. It also talks about being careful of who you allow access to your emotions. And this is a good one. Be careful who you allow actions to your emotions. From your heart is your emotions. It's whether you're sad, whether you're happy. And you want to be careful how you allow access to those emotions. Because sometimes those emotions may be the very thing that people or persons may use against you that they know may hurt you. So, for example, if you're a person who doesn't like public criticism and you make that vocal, that is something from your heart. Sometimes people may use that as a tool to use against you. It also calls protecting your peace and also being spiritually and emotionally aware of what's going on around you. And that's discernment. Your heart is like a gate. Not everyone deserves the key. Let me repeat that again. Your heart is like a gate, and not everyone deserves the key to the gate. So it's like if you have your home and it's beautifully gated, the reason and the intention for a gate at your home, or let's say you live in a gated community, it's because there's only a specific access that can access behind the gate. And the only time you can access behind, whether it's a gated community or whether your home actually has a gate, is if you allow persons in. So guarding your heart is the same thing. It's like a gate. Only who you spiritually and emotionally feel comfortable to allow in that space, you open the gate to. Some people are assigned to your life for a season, but not for your inner circle. So you have certain people when you pass throughout life, may be assigned in that season to get you through that season. So, for example, you may be going through a season of grief, and you may have someone that shows up in that season of grief that may not show up in the season when you're out of the grief. And this is something that I had to learn. So, when it comes to guarding your heart, sometimes as people, we internalize when persons are there for us. So, let's say we meet someone, and let's just use hypothetically, we meet someone on the job that is there for you in your most vulnerable state. Sometimes you may look at that as, okay, this is someone, or this is a friend, or this is, a relationship that I could connect myself to. But you have to realize that sometimes God allows persons in your life for seasons. That doesn't mean they last forever. God may assign destiny helpers or angels to get you through tough seasons. And that's exactly what it is, just to get you through a tough season. It doesn't mean that they are there to stay there permanently. So you have to be careful with relationships that you allow into your inner space, your inner circle. And this is where you have to guard your heart. So here are the dangers of an unguarded heart. When we don't guard our hearts, a few things begin to happen. And let's list them off. We absorb negativity. Constant criticism, gossip, toxic conversation start shaping how we see ourselves. So when you don't guard your heart from the things that you allow to influence your life, whether it's when you're at work or when you're in a circle of friendship, it's always negativity, it's always gossip, it's always talking. It's nothing positive. Eventually after a while, it starts to affect you. It starts to affect the way you think, the way you speak, your emotions, your attitude. And the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. So, two, another danger is we allow emotional wounds to stay open. Past betrayals begin controlling how we treat new people. So sometimes when you left a bad relationship, or you're in a bad relationship that just unstabilizes your mood, right? And you meet someone new. So let me just take, for example, a relationship. So let's say you were in a bad relationship and nothing was beautiful about that relationship. And you move on and you meet new persons. But sometimes if you don't heal your heart from those past betrayals or those past hurt, you tend to allow those emotional wounds to stay open, and you treat the new person or the new significant other that you may meet in a new relationship the same way with the old wounds that you would have received in the previous relationship. So, three, we seek validation in the wrong places. Instead of being grounded in purpose, we become driven by approval, and that is exhausting. And that is something that a lot of persons have to learn. So, when you feel like you have to, and it comes with people pleasing. So if you're a person that people please and you don't guard your heart, what tends to happen is you're not comfortable in your decisions. You're always looking for someone to give you a smile or give you a nod or give you an okay. Or even when you're making decisions, when you don't guard your heart, you don't go to God first and you go to persons to make that decision. So everything you do flows from your heart, your emotions, everything, your intellect, everything. So when you don't guard that, and you are, let's say, people pleasing, then your heart is now controlled by your response, or the response persons give you. So whether they give you a positive response, that is how you will react. So you always look to persons for approval instead of looking within yourself or being confident within yourself that I stand by the decisions that I make. I am who I am and I know who I am. And like I said, that can be very exhausting. So, another thing is guarding our heart in relationships. One of the biggest areas where we must guard our hearts is in relationships. Not everybody celebrating you is genuinely for you. So let me say that again. Not everybody that is celebrating you is genuinely for you. Sometimes people are curious about your life, competitive with your growth, or comfortable only when you are struggling. So it also comes to social media. So when you post statuses about your beautiful trips, or let's say your beautiful bags, or your beautiful new tennis, or anything that captivates the eye of the other party, or someone else in a relationship, whether it be a friend, whether it be a coworker, whether it be a former past lover or partner, sometimes people are only curious about your life. They only want to know what's going on in your life at that moment. Sometimes they look at it as competitiveness. So when you show certain sides to your life, people then compare it against their life. And so you have to be careful how you open up your heart to the things of what you do in your life. Sometimes things are meant to keep secret. So, guarding your heart means learning to discern energies, not just words. So, you have to learn how to discern actions. You always know a person's true intentions by their actions, not by what they say, but with what. Sorry, I'm getting tied up. You always know a person not by what they say, but by what they do. Actions speak louder than words. And it goes back to our previous series. You will know them by their fruits. So the fruit of the Spirit is joy, love, peace, happiness. So not to discern people or to give people meaning by what they say, but what they do. Because actions always reveals the truth. Guarding your heart on social media. Another place we must guard our heart is what we consume online. This is a big one, and this even comes with our kids. As parents, we assist in guarding our kids' heart on what they view on social media, because comparison is one of the quickest way to disturb your peace. You see someone else's success, their vacation, their new opportunity, and suddenly you begin questioning your own journey. Suddenly you begin to forget how God showed up in your life. Suddenly you'll be like, "Oh, why didn't I have the opportunity on the job? Why didn't I get be successful in this? Why didn't I be able to take the vacation?" You have to be careful with that, because sometimes it causes you to forget the good in what God has brought you from so far. So instead of counting your blessings, you tend to look at other people's blessing. And in looking at other people's blessing, you forget where you came from. But remember, social media often shows highlight reels, not the full story. Persons are only going to show you what they want you to see. They're going to show the beautiful parts. Nobody is going to go on social media or online and show the ugly, vulnerable parts of their life. There are very few that will do that, but most people won't show you that side. So guard your heart from comparison and remind yourself your path is different, but it's still purposeful. So maybe your path may look a little different. It may not be straight, it may have some wiggle lines, but always remember, once you wake up each and every day, once God wakes you up each and every day, that means there's purpose for your life. Your story is still being rewritten. Guarding your heart at work. Oh, listen, this is something that I learned. Sometimes the workplace can also challenge your heart. Listen to me. You may experience public criticism. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I wish I could just ah, break out into praise. Public criticism, competitive coworkers, and people who highlight your mistakes instead of your growth. And this is where you have to guard your heart. When you go on jobs, you have to learn not to reveal your true fear or what bothers you. Sometimes people use the very thing that bothers you to use against you. Also, you have to be careful who you give access to. So, for example, this is something that I'm learning daily and that I'm truly walking into. I am a kind person. I know who I am. And that is my nature. I am a kind person. But not everybody deserves the access of this kindness at true value in my heart. I can have my outer layer as being a kind person. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're welcome. But when it comes to my true depths of my kindness, that doesn't require for me to give everyone access to that. This is where discernment comes in. You know who you should give that access to and who do not require that access or that version of you that is stripped down to the core layer. So, in moments like that, guarding your heart means not internalizing everything people say about you. That is another thing, too, because sometimes people use what is your weakness against you, and sometimes you internalize it and think that, oh, I'm making mistakes, I'm not doing good. Don't internalize it. If you know who you are, stand firm in who you are. You weren't brought to that job or that workplace or whatever situation or whatever door that is open for you. You weren't brought in there because you didn't know anything. You were brought there because they divinely thought that you had the talent and the skills to do what they want you to do or what they need you to carry out. So don't let what everybody says about you, don't internalize it. Correction can help you grow, but constant negativity should never define your worth. So, how do we guard our hearts? So, here are a few practical ways we can guard our hearts. So, one, we can stay rooted spiritually. Prayer and reflection realigns our heart when the world tries to distract you or distract us. Two, be selective with access. Everyone does not need to know your plans, your struggles, or your next move. Not everybody needs to know that you're struggling. Sometimes that is something just for you to internalize, for you to pray to God. It's not for you to share your struggles with everyone. Not everybody needs to know your next move because sometimes when they know your next move, they try to get ahead of you and calculate their steps before you. So not everybody needs to know your next move. Wait until those move. Wait until your business ideas or anything that you desire or you hold close to your heart, or if you're building a new house, wait until it has manifested before you give access to anybody. And that can be family and that can be friends. Protect your peace. Not every argument deserves your response. So you have to know when to speak and when to stay silent. And the Bible talks about that in Ecclesiastes. There's a season and time for everything underneath the sun, when to stay silent, when to speak. So you have to know not every argument that you need to be a part of. Some arguments you need to exit yourself out of the conversation. Four, and finally, heal properly. A guarded heart is not a hardened heart. Healing allows you to remain loving without becoming vulnerable to repeated harm. So heal your heart because a healed heart can be able to navigate situations and the ebbs and flows of life. But if you're in a broken place, you're not able to navigate the situations of life that may come your way. So, in closing, the final reflection is guarding your heart is about wisdom, not isolation. It is about wisdom and not isolation. You can still love deeply, you can still support others, you can still build meaningful relationships, but you do it with discernment. Because when your heart is healthy, your life flows better. That's facts. Your decisions become clearer, your peace becomes stronger, and your purpose becomes louder than the noise that is around you. So today I leave you with this reminder: protect your peace, protect your energy, and protect your heart. Because the life you're building deserves a heart that is whole, healed, and guarded with wisdom. So thank you for listening. And if this message spoke to you, share it with someone who may need the reminder today. Like and share the video. Subscribe to our channel, TSR Media, to stay up to date to our next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.